teaching quilting tips, one of the most requested topics is free motion quilting, or sometimes known as stippling. I like to compare free motion quilting to ice skating, moving side to side in a graceful motion. Just like learning to skate, free motion quilting takes a few lessons. The Triple Easy Table Runner is a great project for your first lesson. The piecing is simple while providing a perfect palette to learn no-hassle free motion quilting. First, we're going to start with the table runner. You're going to get half a yard fabric cuts of 3 fabrics and follow the instructions. You can piece together the top, select from a variety of combinations of fabrics, and then after layering the fabrics, I'm going to teach you the free motion quilting. You can see we use contrasting thread stitched around the designs, not using the feed dogs of the sewing machine. And that's where people get a little worried about the stitching. Really, it's no hassle, and I'll show you how. So follow the instructions in the packaging to piece together the top of the table runner. This is a mini quilt, so like any quilt, it has 3 layers: the pieced layer, the batting, and the backing. For the batting, we're going to make it simple and use the Fusible Batting from June Taylor. It's fusible on both sides. Cut it just slightly larger than your top piece and layer your backing and your batting and the top layer. Starting in the center of your design is a steam iron. Burst of steam, press 2 to 3 seconds, or 3 to 4 seconds, I think the packaging says. And you move it along, working from the middle to the sides and the middle to the outsides. And I'm doing it just a little bit more quickly than I probably should. After you fuse one side of this small project, you'd have the whole thing fused, then flip it to the back, to the backing, and do the same pressing. Pressing again 3 to 4 seconds from the middle to the sides. Now, if you did not have fusible backing, then you would use safety pins and pin about a fist width apart, pinning all layers together. After you've layered your quilt, now it's time to do the stitching. I'd like to review the setup for machine free motion quilting. First of all, the thread. I like to use monofilament thread. I'm using Madeira's Monofil clear thread in the needle. That way, if I'm changing thread colors, or fabric colors, I don't have to change the thread. In the needle, you're going to place a new needle. It's always great to use a new needle for a project. And in the needle, I have worked with a Class A needle, quilting needle, and then you'll notice my foot. I have purchased and applied to my machine the Big Foot, a free motion quilting foot that will ride above the fabric as I'm quilting, and you'll see that as I go along. Earlier I mentioned that free motion quilting and stippling was much like ice skating. You glide from side to side. To make the ice more slippery, we have the Supreme Slider. Now, of course, this isn't ice, this is the bed of your machine. This Teflon coating on the top of the Supreme Slider, and then the rubbery side adheres between the bed of the machine and the cabinet, allowing the fabric to glide very nicely. Most importantly, check your owner's manual how to lower or drop the feed dogs, because you're not going to have those feed dogs working with the foot of the machine. You're going to be controlling the fabric. I may want to mention that the Supreme Slider has an opening so that you center that right over the needle so that you don't have to make any cuts or marks in the Supreme Slider. It just fits on your machine, and when you're done, you just take it off and then use it again the next time you're quilting. We're showing you the ultimate of free motion quilting and all the tools you can use to make your technique go more smoothly. And that would be the addition of the quilt halo. It's rubberized. It's kind of like a steering wheel, so that we can just put this underneath the foot area. And on some machines you may need to remove the foot, then place this underneath, put the foot back, but for mine it just slipped underneath. And now I can lower the foot and start stitching. Now in this large print I'm going to follow stitching around some of the designs. And notice that my hands are on the halo, the quilting halo, acting as a steering wheel. It's kind of comforting to know where your hand should go so you don't have them too close to that needle. I'm sewing relatively fast, but notice that I'm moving the fabric slowly. I'm just gliding. Think about skating in Central Park and just going very slowly. I've never skated in Central Park, but this is my dream at some time. So you can just follow along. Sometimes you'll find that as I'm getting close to the edge, then I would reposition the quilt halo and then just do some more stitching. As your first project for free motion quilting, or as you're fine-tuning it, just practice on this table runner. It's a perfect small project to feel comfortable with this technique. As you get done with this project, and I'll just stop at this point, I'll cut my threads and show you the underside. If your thread matches your fabric, it will blend a little bit better, but this shows you with the stitching that I just did. Then you can draw the threads between the layers. You can use the soft touch thread pick, just miniature crochet hook that goes in the fabric. You loop the thread around it and draw it onto the back. It takes a little time, and then it will flip to the back side, and then you can continue doing the quilting or tying all your threads. This next sample, the finished sample, shows the all-over quilting technique, the free motion going through all the areas. Again, consider practicing on the table runner and using these quilting notions for the best results. Nancy's Notions offers a full selection of sewing notions to test out your new sewing or quilting skills. Order your supplies today.